Inherently Taken. I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today I want to talk about an internal vampire that I've recently had to take out. So, an internal vampire, what is that exactly? So, there's sort of three components when I'm talking about an internal vampire, at least mine: fear, unchecked shadow side, not doing your shadow work, which, by the way, I don't know if anybody told you, is not a one and done. Unresolved trauma. Yes. So let's get a little bit more into this. The fear. Um, Fear holds us back. We're familiar. Fear can paralyze you. And the insidious thing about fear, especially as a practitioner, as a witch, as an occultist, as a spiritualist, as someone who just finds themselves spiritual, we'll just say that, when you are ridden with fear, when you are riddled, yeah, is that the right word? You know what I mean, with fear, um, you can't really make decisions. So a lot of times you just sort of do things that you're supposed to do. You go to work, you might, you cook your dinner, you take care of the kids. Um, Unlike like a depression situation, like even though you can be depressed and still do all those things and be very much depressed. Um, but with fear, oh, it's sneaky. You're doing all those things and you're doing those things to hide. That is your standing still. You won't take any chances. You won't take any risk, calculated or not. Um, Even if it's a sure thing, you don't do it. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be some big life changing event. The point is, you don't do it. You don't do the thing that can bring you joy, because I've seen people not even advance, not even go into another field, or um, have children, because of just the fear. And it's not about like, oh, can they afford them and all this sort of stuff, like these life changes that technically they really desire. They're afraid to do it. Some of us are afraid to leave relationships. I don't even talk about getting into leave because of the, oh no, what's going to happen? What if nobody chooses me again? What if I don't find someone better? That sort of stuff. That's based in fear, and it can paralyze you. The problem, the insidious part of that, so you're going about your daily mundane life, right? And you're holding on to this fear. So you're not really living. You're just doing, you're consuming, you're not living. You're not really participating in the full scope of your journey as a human in this form. And whatever that brings, we can't know for certain. We don't know how long we're going to be here. We don't know to what extent. Will I have all my limbs? Will I have my presence of mind? Will all this exist? You don't know. So when you still have it all, you're not doing anything with it other than just the mundane humdrum, just like a robot, just doing the things on repeat. Um, that internal vampire is based in that. It'll keep you right here. Nope, you don't move, you don't change, you don't try anything new. You think of all the things that could go wrong and you shut down. That's an internal vampire. That unchecked shadow side, the shadow work you keep putting off and all of that stuff that you need to kind of deal with, and we all got our stuff, that will be that will manifest into your internal vampire. And then the obvious unresolved trauma, not dealing with the trauma, not, and let me tell you, I have a lot of grace for this subject, because there's so much stuff that can happen to a person where you don't even recognize that was trauma. Like, you don't even recognize that you might even have PTSD. Forget triggers. You have a case of PTSD from the trauma that's been inflicted on you. And it's not just about childhood trauma. As an adult, okay, let me tell you one thing that people don't think about in a workplace. Going into a workplace, office, or not, we'll just say an office, and low key, there's bullies there. But we're adults, right? Everybody's an adult, so you're not supposed to have bullies, and you should stand up for yourself. Or I'm not gonna let anybody bully me. I get that. This is your livelihood. This job pays you so you can eat. But dealing with workplace bullies or just toxic people who inflict their toxicity into the workplace and those who work there, you go there 5 days a week, you're there for at least 8 hours a day, and eating that and just dealing with that is traumatic. Okay, that's traumatic. What do you think that's going to do to your mind, your spirit internally? That's also something that can manifest into your internal vampire. So, how do you recognize? So, that's kind of what it entails, what builds, what sort of births this internal vampire. So, why am I even saying it like that? And this will explain more so. Feeling drained. That's what vampires do. They drain you, right? So, all those things I talked about, being paralyzed with fear, unchecked shadow work, not delving into those, that's where you're looking at triggers. That's where you're looking at unresolved feelings about events and your attitude now and how you're feeling and why do you address things? Why are you so negative all the time? Or more importantly, why don't you believe you can be positive? So, how to recognize it has to do with negative talk. Are you doing lots of negative talk? That is a drain. That is draining you of self esteem. That's draining you of those good, positive feelings I was just talking about. It's negative talk about yourself, honestly. And if you're doing a lot about others, be careful for that too, because that's like this thing where rather than focus on self and working on things that you're basically just projecting at that point, and it comes out in negative talk. Some people will say gossip. Listen, I do a good gossip session too. Come on now. So I don't mean in general, like, oh, if you gossip, like celebrity gossip, come on. You don't think I'm over here talking about the Jada Pinkett, Will Smith, and what is this woman's deal? Is she a narcissist? Yes. Yes, I am. Negative talk, to me, I'm just trying to know, like, girl, what's going on? Why are you, I know you're selling a book. Is it work? I mean, what do you expect to get out of this book deal? But that's me. Maybe it is a distraction. I don't know. So I said feeling drained, the negative self-talk. I'm looking at my notes because I want to stay on point. And okay, so how do you recognize learning to distinguish between fact or fear? Fact. Back to the workplace example where it's just toxic. Fact, it's toxic. When I go in there, I do my job. I don't look forward to it. The work that you do might not be so bad, but the people you have to interact with, it's draining, it's challenging. And now you start to internalize that, right? And you start to doubt like yourself, your ability to accomplish your goals, your work. Are you good enough to even lead that department if you see like other opportunities? And I know that sounds crazy to some people because you would think, well, if I was in a toxic place, I couldn't wait to get out of it. Believe it or not everybody thinks like that. And they want it to change, but that fear part is also happening at the same time. So remember I told you fear can kind of have you in a standstill. So you're just constantly dealing with the trauma. And the rest of us will be looking like, just move, just do something. There are a lot of people who just can't. And that's the best way to explain it. They just can't. They're just paralyzed with it all. And I'm talking to some of those people, no guilt, shame, or anything. There are points in my life I was that way. So I relate. And it was like that for a while. When I tell you you're still like, you're from the outside looking in, it's like, what are you talking about? You seem fine. You were doing this. No, I wasn't. I wasn't living to my capacity. I wasn't living to my capacity. I wasn't on my journey, on my path for this life's work, this life's experience. I wasn't participating in any of it. So no, I wasn't fine. Okay, so that's how you recognize this internal vampire. So let's talk about killing your internal vampire. Acknowledge it. If anything I said kind of resonates even just a little bit, you're like, well, not quite. It's not quite the same, but if it's a little bit like that, yeah, start looking into dig deeper, shadow work, if you will. But even if you just start asking yourself some questions on like, why do I feel that way? And just giving yourself a little bit of space. Do this like at a shower if you're taking a bath, but probably like shower because like that's a moment you're typically if, I used to have kids at a certain age. I wasn't necessarily alone just because I took a shower, but eventually you're alone, right? Hopefully you get a few minutes and you can kind of just like think it out and start asking yourself those questions. Ritual work. So this is definitely near and dear to me. Um, First of all, I came up with this term because I got it out of, I have it right here. I've been referring to this, Witch Wisdom for Magical Aging, Finding Your Power Through the Changing Seasons. And they talked about an internal vampire in this book. And once I got that term and I understood, I was like, whoa, I love that. So I didn't coin that or anything, but it very much is related to me. But ritual work, I linked mine to the full moon for releasing. Um, Do something more dramatic. If it's write the word internal vampire, if there's some specific emotion, if it's about fear, if it's about trauma, write the word trauma, or if you want, write what it is in a few words specifically, like what is it that you're fearful about? And at that point, destroy it as part of your full moon releasings. Do the actual physical action of destroying it and assigning that to this. It might not be a one and done. You might have to do it again. It might be something where you have ongoing rituals to kind of keep this in check, especially if you've allowed this to go on for quite some time. Um, Divination to help with like exploring your emotions, kind of getting a pulse check going a little deeper. Divination using tarot or oracle cards. I prefer tarot in this. You can use oracle if you have a great deck for this, like healing, something geared toward healing. You have to be a little bit more precise about the type of cards. Otherwise, I would just say do tarot cards to sort of, because what will end up happening is you're giving yourself this reading and it's more about how do you feel when you pull that card? When you ask the question of something to the effect of like, how do I kill this internal vampire? How do I get rid of this internal vampire? Or what is my internal vampire? And if you pull a card and you're looking at it, let's say you pull the devil on what is my internal vampire? The devil card in the tarot deck, which there is a deck that I use. Oh, I forgot what it's called. Oh, it's one of them. And Ellen, what's her name? Ellen Dugan. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of this deck, but she doesn't name her tarot card the devil because there's no devil in the craft, and I love that. But anyway, the devil card. You pull this card typically has everything to do with potentially overindulging, really being out of sync, out of balance about needs versus wants, that sort of thing. Just high level, right? So if I'm asking, what is it? Interpreting that, I'd be looking at that card like, and now you start to think, do I have issues with overindulging? Am I eating, am I throwing the wine back too much? Am I eating too much of the sweet stuff? Because if you are, there's a reason that you're craving that. It's a psychological thing and it might be a body thing. So it's basically a mind, body, spirit thing. And there's some healing that needs to take place to get through that. Doesn't mean you don't enjoy sugar stuff and wine. Hello, I like wine. It just means that you're overindulging for a reason. You feel out of sync for a reason and you're looking to comfort yourself. But let's get to the root of why you feel that way. So anyway, that's what divination can help you with. And I've already kind of alluded to this, but shadow work, that's going to require some journaling. I struggle when I talk to people and they say, well, I'm not really a writing type person, journaling type person. And the best I can offer is, okay, well, try. Okay, in the past, you weren't the type of person to sit and write things down. But you can invent whoever you want to be. Now, if you tell, I just don't like writing, I know there's a reason you don't like writing, and I would suggest you delve into that. When did you ever like writing? Oh, I never been into it. Why? If you're guarding, you don't even want to act. That's our first step right there. Trying to talk to someone, which this is what I do to about shadow work, and I'm getting such resistance about something silly as like, I'm not really somebody who writes things down. Can you type? If you don't want to use a pen, can you type? Can you use your phone and type that way? Do that. Can you do voice recordings? Yeah, you can. So stop making excuses, but that's me. That's what you get when you book me. No, I'm not trying to shame or make anybody feel bad, but it's like, I also know I call BS. And you know there's a part of you calling BS as well. There's some reason that people are weirdly resistant to things, but which relates to my internal vampire, because when you get like that, that's that internal vampire setting up red flags. Oh, because they can sense that their lives in danger, their existence is in danger, because you can't be making those kind of changes. You can't be asking thought-provoking questions that might kill that internal vampire. And my last thoughts on the whole idea of killing your internal vampire is that on a personal level, this is something near and dear to me, and identifying it and calling it that, it's been great because that's the best way to explain feeling drained from overthinking, feeling drained from thinking of too many of the worst case scenarios and not enough of, well, what if it was a success? What if it happened? And, okay, so what if you have to start over again? So what? Life, this is life. Like, there's maybe for some of us, there's just one path and that's it. But I like to believe there's multiple paths open to you and detours. So, I'm open to that. And more importantly, I'm at the point with my internal vampire being deceased or barely on life support. I should say that for now, because it's actively being taken care of, and I'm making sure no new one sprouts up. Um, I'm doing the things, and I'm doing the things scared. Yes, I get scared. I make these big changes and big life changes, and there's a series of events that are happening, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm scared. It's kind of like being on a roller coaster and you're terrified, but you got on that roller coaster. You made the decision to get on. And that's very indicative of kind of my situation. There are a lot of this is circumstantial and choices, but I'm here and I'm doing it. And I read cards. I don't want to say I read futures, but kind of in a way I do. uh, but sometimes, well, all the time, you can't know everything. When you sit down, to do a reading for yourself, at least when I do, and I am looking, if most times I'm really trying to examine what's happening in the here and now and get a kind of a wide angle scope of what the situation is outside of just from my mundane perception and my higher self and witchy intuition. And I'm calling in sort of spirit, like, tell me what else I'm not seeing that I don't even know. The things happening behind closed doors could like get me in on everything so I can better assess the situation. And that can be external stuff or even internally, honestly, just inward. That's what I'm saying, use these card readings or divination to help kill your internal vampire. It can be very great that way as a tool. But anyway, doing all of that, sitting down, doing my readings, and really just paying attention to this overview of everything is super helpful with me gauging kind of like, okay, I'm trying to find the best way to explain this. It gives me confidence because even if what I see is not all great, I'm like, the Tower card. If I pull the Tower card and it's in the more last position and not in the beginning position, then I'm like, oh shoot, there's gonna be change. It's probably gonna be messy. I'll have to probably pick up some pieces and put some stuff back together again, and it's going to be some effort. Um, However, that means I have an opportunity to build things the way I want. I have an opportunity. It's an opportunity. See, and that's little that mental alchemy as well. But that's really what it is, though. When you ever hear somebody's testimony or their story about how they were really down on their luck, they lost people, they lost everything they had, and they're telling the story obviously in the future, and they're no longer in that situation. And there's this conversation of like, yeah, I had to do these things, and it was really hard, and it was so ugly, and I hated going through that. And then they kind of giving what happened, and how they got to where they are at that point that they are. When you're talking to them, when you're in the situation, and when you're going through that, you don't really feel triumphant yet. Like there's no, you have to believe that eventually it's going to get better. But it is getting better. It didn't, in these stories, it doesn't stay that way. Now, I personally don't know anyone whose life sort of blew up like that and they didn't put something back together again. It might not be however it was before. I have a little bit of experience with that. Once upon a time, I don't, my life it looked different. I'll just say that. It looked a lot different. Actually, very different times, even before then. But my goals and ambitions were a lot different. Like, I really loved living in the big house with the bonus rooms and the 4 or 5 bedrooms and all that, that was my jam. That was something I did. I had the kids. I felt a sense of stability and safety with that. I don't want any of that today. I live in a cute little cottage home, and the idea of a structure that large, again, is not appealing for me. It's not appealing at all. And it seems like it's nothing, but that's like a huge change for me, because I like that represent like that those large homes like that just represented stability and structure, and like you did well, you're doing good. And living in the amount of square footage, yeah, that I have now, years ago, I would have thought was like a disappointment. I know, right? It's silly. I'm just being honest with you. That's true. But there's been different internal vampires that have taken over. I didn't always know, but I used to just sing learning to conquer the fear. But a lot of my fear was an internal vampire, because it was draining my ambition. It was draining my life force. It was draining my ability to dream. Those internalized thoughts, those really nasty thoughts that you don't ever say out loud, but you're thinking it about yourself. That's your internal vampire. That was mine. So I feel good that I'm sitting on the other side, and whatever spawn has come up since any of this, I've been able to end it. So I'm very grateful for that. So, hopefully this has been helpful. There's so much work to be done in this world, and for us magical people, we can have an impact. It starts with your own life, by the way. It starts with your own sense of being in this world, on this plane of existence. So that's why it's going to be important for you to handle your internal stuff first, and then you can be of service, if you choose to the outside, to healing work for the world. We there's just so much violence, and it's always been in human society for like recorded history. Violence is just part of it. It would be nice if we can reach a point where that's not the case. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime in my lifetime, but we will, we can at least, put our intentions out there. So thank you for watching. I'm Mika. This is Leap Taken. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. consider hitting the join button there to join Leap Taking membership. It's like a Patreon here on YouTube. You would be supporting my channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and I appreciate those who already participate. Head on over to leaptaking.com, check out the services that I offer, and if you have any questions, put it in the comments here and let me know. All right, thanks. Bye.